Hello and welcome back to my channel where I like to have fun with all things beauty while being critical about what I accept into my collection. Today I am doing an ODEN'S review. So this is their love language collection that they did with Morgan Turner on YouTube. And really quick, I just want to say, well, two things. The first thing is I bought this collection myself. I don't receive PR from any brands and my channel is not even big enough for affiliate links. So I do want to mention that with collections like these that seem to mostly get reviews from people who have been gifted them. That is not the case with me. If that ever changes, I will let you know. But as of now, all of this is purchased by myself. If you're someone who looks for reviews like that, I certainly don't exclusively. Most of the creators I follow do get PR, but I do like to see from time to time people who have traded their money for these things. The other thing I wanted to say is this is no reflection on Morgan Turner herself. I'm a big fan. She was one of the first creators that I found when I first started watching YouTube. I've always really liked her and I think she is incredibly talented. One thing that I thought always stood out about her channel was despite the fact that she was in her 20s and a makeup artist, like a trained makeup artist, the way she reviews products was so helpful and concise that it sort of transcended our differences. And I still to this day find her one of the most useful review channels on YouTube. So I'm really happy for her with this collection and I'm happy that she is finally getting her flowers. Her channel is finally getting the attention it deserves. So the part of this review that is not just about the color story, which I definitely like, I think she did a great job with that. What I'm going to more be focusing on is the formula and whether or not I think this is a good purchase. The last thing I wanted to mention before jumping into swatches is the reason this review is so late is for a few different things. I mean, by the time this palette got to me, the timing was just off and I had other palettes to review and that sort of took the forefront, and then it sold out. So it wasn't until I think yesterday I saw that the restock was announced that I decided that I was going to go ahead and film this review today. The other thing that made it later than I wanted it to be was my eye. If you can't see, I'm trying to stay at a bit of a distance, but I think it was 3 or 4 days ago at this point I woke up with a burst blood vessel in my eye. I have no idea how that happened. It must have been at some point during the night, and to my knowledge there was no trauma, and I don't have any pain, but my allergies are out of control. So right now both of my eyes are incredibly itchy and it just makes me not want to wear makeup. Now I'm hoping that in a week or so this will blow over, figuratively and literally, and I will get some amount of relief, but for right now I'm kind of uncomfortable, so it just makes it hard to film. But I didn't want to put this off. I wanted to get something up and out this week, and I definitely wanted to talk about this palette while you can pick it up. And at this point you can still pick up the full collection, which is the palette and the 5 lip products for $96.39, or the lip products are $13.90 individually, and the palette on its own is $43.90 USD. Now I will insert some close-ups of the swatches and I'll see you on the other side. So I hope that was helpful, and I don't think there's a big mystery here. You kind of can tell by looking at this color story if it speaks to you or not. I don't have a lot of criticisms when it comes to the color story because for me this is incredibly useful. I love that she included shades for setting. I always like to set my eye base before I start, and there's a great gradient here so I can do my sort of signature contour eye look as well as blending shades. I think this palette is well rounded. It's neutral with some pops of fun, so no criticisms there. Probably my biggest issue is the formula itself. I'm just not a huge fan of the ODEN'S formula. I gotta be really honest about that. So going into this, was wary of it. I did have some bias for sure because I have a few of their palettes, and while I do appreciate their color stories, and they're by no means terrible. They just are not my favorite in the indie market today. So what typically happens is I'll get one of their palettes and I'll use it a bunch in the beginning, and then it'll sort of go into the back of my collection, never to be seen again. And I really genuinely think it has to do with the lackluster formula. If I'm given a choice between an Oden's Eye palette and one from another indie brand for a similar color story, I'm almost always going to choose the other brand. So that's just the reality. None of these shades hard panned, none of these shades are unusable. So I think it is a safe pickup if you really know that you like this color story. Unlike some of their palettes in the past that have had straight up unusable formulas, none of these are unusable. They are all 100% usable. They're just not my favorite. I probably have 150 eyeshadow palettes, which is overkill, believe me. I'm embarrassed to admit that, but given my collection, this just doesn't stand out. I think this would be a great purchase for somebody with a lot smaller of a collection who likes to dabble in color from time to time, but generally doesn't prefer that. Like if you use mostly Natasha Denona, for example, I think this would be a nice addition to a collection like that. But if you have a ton of indie shadows, you're not going to be impressed by this. I would say absolutely skip. The single shade in this entire palette that I think really stands out is Flirt. So that's this pinky blue sort of duochrome shade. It's the one that I have featured in my eye look today. It's stunning, but I do have similar shades from Glaminatrix. So Glaminatrix is my favorite indie brand, hands down, no contest. So I would absolutely recommend getting a single from them if that's the one shade that you really want from this palette. Overall, I think the look that I have on today is probably the look that I'm going to want to redo the most frequently from this palette. Before I jump into the other looks, I wanted to quickly talk about this one shimmer in the palette that is a little bit different in consistency to the other ones. So here I have it compared to the light pink shimmer, and as you can see, it's just a little bit more thick and textured. It's a lot more emollient than all of the other shimmers, and I don't think this is necessarily bad. As you can see, it's quite punchy, so it packs quite a nice punch, and I like that in a shimmer. But because the texture is a little bit inconsistent, it's just not my favorite. It's not as thick as like the Adept shimmers that are really thick and textured and emollient, but it's just not my preference, I guess. Using it for a second time today, I actually really prefer how this looks. It looks a lot more smooth. I think the first time I used it, I had a little bit of trouble with patchiness, but as you can see, it still gives the effect that I'm going for. So I still do really like this shade. It's not unique by any means, but at the end of the day, I love a champagne shimmer. So I'm very happy to have this as part of the collection. So this is an example of the first time I used this shadow. And as you could see, it just looks a little bit patchy. And I think maybe I used too much. It's better when it's thinned out for sure. And this is the second look that I did with the palette, and it's beautiful, featuring that frosty blue duochrome. It's the look that I tried to somewhat recreate today for the video, and it's just stunning. The next look I did, I was trying to feature the pink shades, and it came out okay. I mean, I don't hate it. I really do like that light pink shimmer very much, I think, on its own. I don't really think I needed the hot pink, and the purples are alright too. I don't feel like they're anything that I don't already have in my collection, but they're nice, they're pretty from time to time to play around with, but I think the two looks that I like the most are definitely this one, that this is my look from today, and the champagne shimmer. Those are the two that really stand out to me the most. I know in general I was a little bit harsh on this palette, and the fact remains that I'm happy that I have it. I don't dislike this in any way, shape, or form. I'm just trying to come at this from the perspective of who I think is mostly watching these reviews on YouTube. And if you already have a lot of these shades in your collection, I don't really think you need it. So once again, these are all of the looks that I've done so far with this palette, and there are zero losers. They are all pretty. This is just a very pretty palette. Whether you need it or not is up for debate, but it's definitely not objectively a bad palette. I'll pop up the one or two other looks that I did, but I will admit it didn't excite me to do more. So this came around the same time as the Nomad Fairy Tale Europe palette, and I was way more excited to play with that. I immediately did like 4 or 5 different looks with that palette, and all my attention went there, and then this just sort of sat in the back, and I felt like I had to force myself to do a series of at least 3 looks. I knew that I needed at least 3 different looks before I could talk about this. So I did those looks and I enjoyed those looks, but I just wasn't looking forward to it in the same way. As far as the lip products go, again, this is a formula problem. So I have tried lip products from ODEN'S in the past, from one of the Angelica Nyqvist collaborations, but those colors were so strange that I thought I couldn't really judge them, other than the fact that they were matte, and I'm not really a matte lip person because I have pretty dry, small lips, so matte lippies don't really do me any favors. So I didn't really feel like I had the best experience with them in the past, but I didn't have a lot to go on. These colors definitely appealed to me a heck of a lot more, and I do really like the colors. Even today, looking at these colors, I really still like them very much. What I don't like is, once again, the formula. The other thing that kind of is annoying is if you get multiples of these, you can't see the color, so you have to open them fully unless you memorize the name. So like, this is Kisses. This is what I have mostly on my lips today. I did not memorize the shade names, so I had to fully open it to see what color I was dealing with. That's kind of annoying. But I think this is a fun shade. This is probably the one that got the most attention, but when I put it on, it just kind of separates a little bit and it really settles into my lip lines. That's not typically a problem that I have. When I'm doing my makeup, I put a lip mask on and I leave the mask on for the whole time that I'm doing my makeup. So 20, sometimes 40 minutes, my lips are nice and saturated with the lip mask by the time I go to put any lipstick on. So especially upon first application, my lips are in pretty good shape. The fact that this immediately somehow went into lip lines that I didn't even know were there and started to separate just makes me think that it's a formula thing. And while I can totally make it work, I don't hate the look I did today. It's just never going to be something I'm going to want to pull from my collection. And I kind of felt like this. There's 3 different formulas. So there's a matte formula, there's this glossy lip opaque formula, and then there's a more traditional lip gloss topper type of formula. So I'll pop up a close-up of Kisses first. One similar to that is Beso, which might be my favorite color in the collection. Then we have Love of My Life, which is the matte. That's a nice color. Color-wise, again, I really love them color-wise. And then the 2 glosses. So the first one is Snuggle, which is very, very pale. Kind of can go with anything. And then finally Love Language, which is this frosted pink. So this is kind of like a shade adjuster, can help lighten up a darker lipstick underneath. Again, from a shade perspective, I think they're all great choices. And I know that I'll get some use out of the glosses that are lighter in pigment, but at the end of the day, I just have a ton of lip products that I know that I like better. So that was kind of a bust for me. If I was recommending anybody, I would say just get the palette. You don't need the lip collection unless you're super curious to try the ODEN'S formula, and maybe I'm alone in not liking it, but I straight up don't like it, where I can get behind this. There is nothing unusable about this palette. So that's it. Those are my complete thoughts about the ODEN'S collection with Morgan Turner. I wish I was more excited about this. I get a lot of feedback of people telling me that I complain too much, but like, I'm trying to be critical. This is all about my personal take on these products, and if I think that they're really worth it at the end of the day. And with this one, I just don't. I don't think it's bad. I don't think I would go as far as to say that I regret picking it up. I mean, maybe I kind of regret the lip products. I don't regret buying the palette. It's just not something that I would go out of my way to repurchase if I didn't have it, if that makes any type of sense. I sort of decided last year when I picked up my most recent palettes from ODEN'S that I was sort of done after that. I didn't feel like there was any reason for me to buy anything more from them. I made an exception because I did really like this color story and I wanted to test it out, and I heard good things about it. But at the end of the day, I'm going to go back on my ODEN'S no buy, which is not like a very serious thing. Like, granted, they could come out with something crazy that would totally knock my socks off and I would purchase it. But by and large, if they come out with holiday collections or pretty much anything else, I'm probably gonna skip. I have to be picky about what palettes I pick up, especially now with the economy the way it is. So they don't make the cut. And that's kind of where we're at. There's so much good makeup out there, and there's so many incredible indie brands that at some point I just have to make some hard decisions and make room for other stuff. So I'm hoping that my eye heals sometime within the next week and I can continue with videos and the rest of my Sephora order comes. I have no idea when it'll actually get here. My experience with the Sephora sale is whatever you purchase early on, you get in a good amount of time, but anything later on or towards the end of the sale takes forever. So that's sort of where we're at. I'm still waiting on a bunch of things. I decided very last minute, the night the sale ended, to pick up the Rare Beauty Contour stick. I'm going to compare that to the Westman Atelier because the mini sold out, so I wasn't able to get a backup of that. Today I'm doing a wear test with the new Givenchy powder versus the old Givenchy powder, the loose powder, not the pressed powder I sort of already touched base on. But I will be including that as well as an Hourglass primer. Somehow Hourglass released a primer in the last few weeks that totally went under the radar and I missed it. It's for dry skin, so that's right up my alley. So I will be absolutely testing that as well as a few other things. So definitely stay tuned for that. But that is it for today. I hope that you're having an incredible day or night wherever you are. I hope you're taking care of yourself. I love you so much and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.